Excellent companion Rodney Lister Bass, OBE, was an extremely popular and highly respected Most Excellent Grand Superintendent who contributed much to the development of the Holy Royal Arch in Essex. He was passionate about the Royal Arch and was extremely proud not only to have been our Grand Superintendent, but also to have been MEZ of our two flagship chapters in Essex, namely Essex First Principles Chapter and Essex Provincial Grand Stewards Chapter. On a personal level, Rodney had a great influence on me in Freemasonry, most notably because, since 2015, he appointed me to 3 different positions on his provincial executive, and I shall forever be in his debt. Rodney was a true Mason, and despite the demands and responsibilities of the elevated office that he held, he remained accessible and approachable and was never too busy to find time to speak to a brother or to a companion. It was a great honour to have served as his Deputy Grand Superintendent. He was an excellent leader and an outstanding individual, and the province of Essex, as well as Freemasonry in general, would be much the poorer for his loss.
I'm Gareth Jones, Provincial Grand Master for South Wales and 3rd Grand Principal of Supreme Grand Chapter. And I was delighted and humbled to be asked to say a few words about Rodney Lister Bass. Rodney was one of those Provincial Grand Masters to whom everybody tended to gravitate in our meetings. It wasn't just because he was wise and knowledgeable. In fact, it was mainly because he was always great fun to be with. Rodney had a wonderful sense of humour, and he always made our meetings enjoyable while still enabling us to do the business that we had to do. In that great fraternity of Provincial Grand Masters, Rodney was an absolute giant, and I, for one, will miss him very much indeed.
Rodney Lister Bass, OBE, was a dear friend. We shared a number of coincidences. We were both bankers at HSBC, where he enjoyed a distinguished career. We were APGMs simultaneously, which is when our close friendship began, and thereafter we went on to be installed, some years later, as Grand Superintendents within weeks of each other. He always joked that he was more senior than I, as he was installed before me, but I teased him that my patent of appointment was issued before his, and we regularly cross-visited our provinces. On the eve prior to his investiture, I emailed him my very best wishes, and he replied after 11 o'clock that night, advising me that he was still hard at work putting the final touches to the proceedings. Such was his diligence and professionalism. He was an accomplished leader and much loved and respected by his peers. The next meeting of Supreme Grand Chapter will not be the same without his presence.
Hello to the companions and brethren of Essex. I am James Sharpley, the Grand Superintendent for Hertfordshire, and I've had the honour to be asked to say a few words about the late Rodney Lister Bass. I have known Rodney for many years, and especially I've known him very well since he became the Grand Superintendent for Essex. And I can particularly remember when we've managed to get a few minutes to have a chat over our respective problems in running provinces at various convocations around the country, or at Supreme Grand Chapter. Rodney would listen to what you had to say and fix you with that steely gaze of his, and he would either agree with you entirely, point out the flaws in your argument, or burst into a raucous laughter, and I will miss Rodney dearly.
Brethren, I've been honoured to be asked to record a short tribute to your Provincial Grand Master and Most Excellent Grand Superintendent, Rodney Bass. I was privileged to be able to call him a friend. In fact, he was a friend to everyone. He was a devoted Mason who worked tirelessly promoting the craft and Royal Arch province of Essex, and indeed many of the other orders within the province. I was lucky on many occasions to be in his company, and his determination to make us all enjoy Freemasonry was inspirational. Rodney was indeed a larger-than-life character, and refreshingly spoke and supported what he considered to be right. He will be truly missed by us all. He will stay in my memory for many years to come.
Companions, I am Bill Estaugh, the Grand Superintendent for Cambridgeshire. Rodney and I were both installed as Grand Superintendents in 2015, some 4 months apart, and were usually placed next to each other in processions, meetings, or dinners at Supreme Grand Chapter or Provincial Royal Arch events, giving us ample opportunity to discuss and debate the Royal Arch issues of the moment, something he enjoyed immensely. He cared so much for you, his province, but also the welfare of all his companions. And I was immensely privileged to see him installed as Z in your past First Principles chapter a couple of years ago, and hear him relate the history of his father's jewel, which he then presented to the chapter. As with all of you, I shall miss him hugely, and he's left a big hole in all of our lives, and especially in Essex. But he's also left us with some fabulous memories. Whilst the Royal Arch is the poorer for his passing, we are all the richer for having known him and having shared so many special moments.
Companions, my friendship with Rodney began when we were both appointed as Grand Superintendents in 2015. He had a genuine love of Freemasonry. His insight and clarity of thought contributed greatly to helping shape our future at a national level, whilst never losing sight of the needs of his province. He was fearless in challenging ideas and concepts he didn't agree with, and equally vigorous in promoting those he did. He flew the flag for Essex Freemasonry far and wide, and was very proud of all his companions achieved. And he was for many years a regular and very welcome visitor to Norfolk. He was one of those very special people who lived life to the full, a true leader, great company to be with, and a strong desire to help make the world a better place. It was a privilege to have known him, and he will be greatly missed by myself and all his friends and colleagues.
Companions. I knew excellent companion Rodney for over 35 years. We didn't always see eye to eye. In fact, we had many differences of opinion, but we always had the greatest respect for each other. I worked with Rodney at the Tollesbury Masonic Centre in Craft Masonry as a Mark Master Mason, a Royal Ark Mariner and a Prince Rose Choir. And finally, after many years of him trying to persuade me, he proposed me into the Holy Royal Arch. A lovely degree in which, when things get back to normal, I hope to progress. Excellent companion Rodney Bass was a great man and a dedicated Freemason, who, I'm sure, will be missed by us all.
Hello, brethren. Well, what can one say? To have lost our Provincial Grand Master so early in his tenure, and so early in terms of his age, is devastating. We have lost a friend, a brother, a companion, and an illustrious brother of the ancient and accepted Rite Rose Choir. Therefore, on behalf of all the members of the Rose Choir South Essex District, I give our condolences and commiserations to the family. He will never be forgotten. Brethren, stay safe, stay well, and I trust I will see you all again soon.
First, I can say that I fully endorse all tributes paid to Rodney, which have gone before. Despite the rigours of his duties as Provincial Grand Master, he remained active in the 3 chapters in which he was a member and continued to support the district of North Essex. In recognition of his support for the order and his contribution to Freemasonry in general, Rodney received promotion to the 31st degree of the ancient accepted rite in January 2018. As Provincial Grand Master, Rodney was extremely supportive of other orders in Essex and provided invaluable support to me personally on my appointment to Inspector General, for which I will always be eternally grateful. We were in a number of orders together and we met quite frequently. There are too many happy moments to recount here, and they will remain with me forever. Rodney was fully dedicated to whatever he undertook and left an outstanding legacy for the future prosperity of Essex Freemasonry.
I can say I always found Rodney to be a friendly, approachable person and PGM. He was, of course, a great supporter of the other progressive orders, a member of the Mark 20 years and the Royal Ark Mariner 16 years. His support of the Mark was well known, much appreciated and highly regarded. A passage from the Mark ceremony includes, "The badge with which you have been invested is meant to remind you that as you mark well or ill, so your words and actions will be recorded and observed by the great overseer of the universe, to whom you must give an account of your conduct through life. Do justice, love mercy, practice charity, maintain harmony, and endeavour to live in unity and brotherly love." This passage puts into words my memories of Rodney and his approach to all he did. I'm honoured to say Rodney was a brother of mine and a friend of the Mark degree, and will certainly be missed. Thank you.
In his 5 years in office as our Provincial Grand Master, Brother Rodney showed by his own personal involvement and actions to be a great supporter of all the other degrees in Essex Freemasonry, in many of which he was an enthusiastic member. His belief in what he called the family of Essex Freemasonry was proved time and again by his attendance, whenever possible, at meetings of all the progressive degrees. His duties in the craft and the Royal Arch required a great deal of his time and energy, but he still managed to fit into that busy schedule the opportunity and time to attend as a member of every other order he had joined throughout a distinguished career. I personally will think of him as a man and a Freemason who I was privileged, honoured and delighted to know, and was able to call a friend who I greatly admired. He was, in my opinion, a truly great Freemason who will be missed by all who knew him, and his legacy to Essex Freemasonry in particular will live on in a celebration of his achievements as well as to his memory.
Rodney was a great supporter of the Royal Order of Scotland. Apart from belonging to his mother province of East Anglia, he was also a member of the Grand Lodge of the Order that meets in Edinburgh, as well as being an honorary member of my province of North Thames. Angela and I had very pleasant memories of an evening spent with Rodney, John Robertson, Barry Pewter and others, together with their respective wives, at an informal supper at a fish restaurant in Edinburgh, prior to the annual Grand Lodge meeting the following day. Sadly, there is not going to be the opportunity of repeating what everyone agreed was a most enjoyable occasion. Rodney was a wonderful man, a supporter of Masonry in all its forms, and we are all going to miss the pleasure of having his company in the years.
Rodney Lister Bass was a very enthusiastic member of the Royal Order of Scotland. He showed that enthusiasm by attending the meetings in Edinburgh, which were held in July. One year he said to me, "John, I think we ought to join this Royal Order. They meet 4 times a year, and it would be good fun, and we can have a few days in Edinburgh." So we both joined. I then booked a room in the Premier Inn, but Rodney bought a flat in the fashionable part of Edinburgh. He never did things by half. When we used to go to Edinburgh and return back to Colchester, his wife Margaret used to say, "You're like 2 naughty schoolboys." But really what she meant was, "You've obviously enjoyed yourselves." Now Rodney did enjoy himself. His philosophy was that everything had to be enjoyed. He enjoyed his vintage cars, he really enjoyed his masonry, and his enthusiasm showed all the way through. His enthusiasm will be sadly missed by all those who knew him.
My name is Geoffrey Conway. I am the District Grand Prefect for the Allied Masonic degrees here in Essex. I am honoured and touched to be asked to say something on behalf of Essex Allied Masonry in memory of and in tribute to Right Worshipful Brother Rodney Bass. I knew Rodney personally from professional legal meetings with him. Rodney had a detailed knowledge of technical legal matters, and it was a delight to listen to him and work with him. He was one of the most decent, kind, and fair gentleman I had ever met. And now he has gone to that land from whose bourne no traveller has returned. He has stood at that untiled door where there is no need for word or token, no need for guard or sign, where brother meets with brother, and God's glory on him shines. So mote it be.
As well as being an inspirational leader as both Provincial Grand Master and Provincial Grand Superintendent, Rodney Lister Bass, OBE, was a huge supporter of the additional and progressive orders. Within the Order of Holy Royal Arch Knight Templar Priests, Rodney was received into St Ced and St Peter Tabernacle, number 109, on the 16th of November 1996, served as High Priest in 2009, and had attained the rank of Past Grand Sixth Pillar Companion of Holy Wisdom. In spite of Rodney's high office, he always found time to share his knowledge and passion with everyone present at any meeting. Within the universe of Freemasonry, we have lost one of our brightest stars, who will be greatly missed by many.
My name is John Aldridge, and in short, Rodney was my closest friend for nigh on 60 years. We met at King Edward VI Grammar School in Chelmsford when I was 14, in 1959. Known to me affectionately as Dodd, or Bass, as it was common to use surnames at school, we maintained a schoolboy relationship right up to his passing. We had an abiding mutual interest in old classic cars, golf holidays in Scotland, and politics. In fact, he started my political career when he wrote my politically incorrect manifesto for my successful election to the local parish council. But over the years he was always there with sound advice, which was particularly helpful when I joined him on the Essex County Council 15 years ago. He was the best man at my wedding and became a much-loved godfather to my son Charles, whom he encouraged in all sorts of misbehaviour as a child and as a teenager. Even in recent months, during his illness, while Charles was working at the Department for Transport, he was texting him with his thoughts on roads and air transport issues. After my wife, Chris, came into my life, she quickly learned how inseparable we were. So when organising our holidays and other social events, she always thought to include Rodney, although despite stories to the contrary, we did manage to go on our honeymoon without him. It was on a trip Chris arranged to the Loire in my old Allard and Rodney's vintage Rolls-Royce that I first met Margaret, who was later to become his wife. 3 treasured days of much laughter and enjoyment ensued. Rodney was passionate about his extensive family, as well as his home for almost 75 years at Five Corners. He was a very generous person, and the holiday house he purchased in Aberfeldy was made available to family and friends, including us, for many years. And it was here, in the snow on New Year's Eve, 2009, that he proposed to Margaret. Probably, in his own admission, the best decision he ever took. His passing has brought great sadness to me, his family, and so many others. But he leaves as his legacy the memory of a very traditional gentleman and the many happy times we all shared for so many years.
Hello, this is Richard Pattison joining you from Essex Scouts to both celebrate Rodney's life and to mourn his passing. Rodney and you generally have been great friends to us, and that is manifested in your significant generosity under his visionary, modest leadership in funding our confidence area at Screens Park. The high ropes course, the low ropes course for younger children, and importantly the wheelchair access area, stand not as static infrastructure but living testament to all that he did to support youngsters across our county and more widely. They enjoy challenging, fun, rewarding activity that develops their confidence, largely as a result of his inspiration. And they will continue to benefit children way into the future. And that stands as testament and legacy to him. So to all of you on this sad occasion, our heartfelt sorrow and sympathy from all of us at Essex Scouts.
Rodney Bass was elected at the age of 21 onto the Malden Rural District Council prior to the creation of the Malden District Council in 1974. He had served on the council for 40 years, the communities of the district. He had been leader, chairman of the district council twice, and held key committee positions. His commitment and dedication were second to none. He was the greatest champion for the communities of the district. He was honourable and served with vision, courage and integrity. Rodney loved and cared for all the communities of the district. He was loved and respected. The loss of Rodney has been felt right across the district. But his legacy remains. Vision, courage and integrity. He will be remembered.
In 1970, the young Rodney Bass took his seat on Great Totham Parish Council, a position he then held continuously until his recent death. During those 50 years, he was chairman of the council for 3-year periods on 3 separate occasions. Rodney was very committed to the parish in which he lived. He represented it on Malden District Council for 40 years. He attended the village school, played cricket for the village team, was church warden, and also took an active part in parish council working parties carrying out maintenance of parish council properties. His experience and wise counsel will be sorely missed by those of us who had the pleasure of working with him. Thank you, Rodney.